podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Two-Footed Podcast here on EPL Index. Now, before we kick things off today, I just want to share something with everybody. This episode is brought to you by our partners at Sky Bet, and we've teamed up with Sky Bet because they truly understand what it means to be a fan. Sky Bet appreciates the length that people go through to support their team in all areas, whether you're a match-going fan or otherwise, and there's just no better fit for us right now than a partnership with the good folks at Sky Bet. So with that said, let's go. What's good, boys and girls? Two-Footed Podcast. Today is Friday. It is the 3rd of March. Sorry, it's the 3rd of May. And the rain is back, so it might as well be March. We had one game in the Premier League last night, and Tottenham's hopes of top four are done and dusted. Chelsea 2, Tottenham 0. Trevoh Chalobah on 24 minutes with the great header off a set piece. Nicholas Jackson on 72 minutes after Cole Palmer rattled the woodwork. Jackson was the first to follow up, and his looping header found its way into the back of the net. Tottenham were really poor on the night. Really, really poor. But I don't like the revisionist history that I'm seeing around their season. Now, if we look back at last season, we'll look at the league table, look all the way down and find Tottenham in 8th place. 60 points from 38 games. This season, they have 60 points from 34 games and will win, I would say, 2 of their remaining 4 games, with probably a draw against Liverpool thrown in there for good measure. Last season, Tottenham lost 14 games. This season, even if they lost every remaining game, they would only lose the same amount as that, which I don't think they will, considering they have upcoming fixtures against Burnley at home and Sheffield United away. So I would say max 12 defeats. We've seen a lot of people talking about Tottenham's defence this year. Last season, they conceded 63 goals. This season, they've only conceded 54, which isn't good. I'm not saying it's good, but it is a lot better than last year. Last year, Tottenham scored 70 goals to their credit. This season, they've scored 67, but they did lose Harry Kane in the summer. So in the summer, Ange Postecoglou was appointed to a team that had finished 8th, missed out on Europe, lost 14 games, conceded a ton, not scored a huge amount, and had all the uncertainty around what Kane was going to do, which unfortunately dragged on late into the window and very clearly disrupted their plans for this season. They brought in a couple of really good players. Pedro Porro made a permanent move. James Maddison arrived. Vicario arrived. And they signed Mickey van de Ven. But because the Porro deal was already done and the Kulusevski deal was already done, that ate into a significant amount of their summer transfer budget. When Kane left, they weren't really in a position to even maximize the money they got in for Kane and go and spend that on a new striker. They signed Brennan Johnson on the last day of the window. They overpaid for him, but they signed him on the last day of the window. He got no pre-season with them. And that, it's funny, I see for other clubs, people defending players say, oh, you didn't get a pre-season. But yet, Brennan Johnson doesn't get afforded the same the same grace. In the season, obviously they started well. Through 10 games, they'd won 8 and drawn 2. And things were going very, very well. And then you'll all remember, match day 11, they lose to Chelsea. The bigger issue about the loss to Chelsea wasn't just the defeat, it was the injuries. They lost Van de Ven and they lost Maddison for months. So if we take a look at Tottenham this season and the players that have played, Vicario's played every game. In defence, Romero has missed 5 games. Porro has missed 3 games. Edoiji has missed 6 games. Mickey van de Ven missed 11. In midfield, they lost Basuma and Matar Sarr to the AFCON. Basuma has played 25 games, Sarr 30, but only 23 starts each. Part of that's rotation. Part of that is also injuries and the AFCON. They lost Son to the Asian Cup. Richarlison's only started 18 games. He's missed 7 through injury. Kulusevski's been almost ever present. But they've still had injuries and disruptions due to AFCON and the Asian Cup, which other clubs haven't had. Now, Villa have had some injuries, unquestionably. But look at the injuries that Villa have had. Jacob Ramsey and Boubacar Kamara are the only ones that really and truly have had a negative impact on the team. Now, yes, Mings would have allowed them to rotate a bit more at the back. Same thing with Emi Buendia. Not like either of them are particularly top players. Arsenal have barely had any injuries. Their starting 11 has largely been untouched this season. Only Zinchenko and Jesus have missed significant time. And there's a question mark over whether Jesus is actually a starter or not. Spurs have had a very tough time with injuries to key players. James Maddison is the final piece of the puzzle there. 24 appearances. So he missed 10 games. He missed 10 games. So you've got Maddison missing 10 and Van de Ven missing 11. Basuma missing 9. These are vital players for Spurs. Plus AFCON, plus Asian Cup. I think 5th is about as well as Spurs could really have hoped to do in this season, having lost Kane and gotten those injuries. They're in a bad run at the moment. It's only the second poor run they've had this season. The previous time, they lost to Chelsea, lost to Wolves, lost to Villa, drew at City, and then lost to West Ham. This time they've lost away to Newcastle, home to Arsenal chasing the title, and away to Chelsea in a London derby. There's been some bad results this year. Like getting thumped by Fulham is a bad result. But overall, the draw to Brentford, I would say, bad result. The draw away to Arsenal is a good result. Losing at home to Chelsea, even though Chelsea are bad, it's not a dreadful result. The outcome looks bad because the 4-1 and whatever else, but if you lose at home to a Big Six rival, it's not a terrible result. It's a bad result, not a terrible one. I don't think losing away to Wolves is a bad result. Losing at home to Villa is a bad result for them because of the circumstances going for the title or the top 4 spot. Losing at home to West Ham, flat out bad result. I don't think losing away to Brighton is. Losing at home to Wolves is a bad result. Losing away to Fulham is a bad result. The draw at Everton, I would say, is a bad result as well. But like they've had very few that you'd outright say that's bad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would say they've had 6 bad results all season, like outright bad results. Now, there's a couple again that sting. Chelsea at home stings, Arsenal at home stings. But again, circumstances. Against Chelsea, they got serious injuries and had 2 players sent off, one of whom was sent off after 30 minutes, 33 minutes. They only collapsed against Chelsea after the second red card, 20 minutes after the second red card, by the way, and the injuries just wore them down. And against Arsenal, second goal shouldn't have counted. Kulusevski's clipped in the Arsenal box by Trossard. Should have been a penalty. The third goal should have been disallowed because Ben White fouls Vicario. So if the referee gets the big decisions right in that game, Spurs probably win 3-1. You know? So a lot of rewriting of history against Spurs last night. People wanting to take the piss out of Ange. People not understanding how Postecoglou works. People asking silly questions. Year 1 under Ange is about indoctrination. It's about drilling a way of playing, a philosophy of football into the players. Year 2 is where you start to see variations. Year 2 is where he starts adapting more to game state. Year 1 is all about indoctrination. Spurs will be better next season. And right now, I would say I think Spurs will be a top 4 team next season. I actually don't have too many doubts about that. Moving on, Europa League. Last night, Leverkusen went to Rome with a weakened team and came away with an impressive 2-0 victory. Florian Wirtz on 28 minutes. I said yesterday I didn't like Rick Karsdorp. That is one of the worst pieces of defensive play I've ever seen. Absolutely abysmal stuff. Terrible pass, and then threw himself on the ground pretending to be injured. Robert Andrich made it 2 on 73 with a long-range stunner. In the other semi-final, Gianluca Scamacca put Atalanta 1-up in Marseille on 11 minutes with a really nice finish. And 9 minutes later, Chancellor Mbemba, formerly of Newcastle United, scored an absolute stunner. How he's still only 29, I have no idea. Absolutely no idea. Now, I know that many years ago, there was a whole thing about what age he was. And CNN found documents that suggested that when he was telling people he was 19, that he was actually 25. I have no clue. None at all what age he is. But I know that was a hell of a goal. Right now, it's looking like an Atalanta-Leverkusen Europa League final. In the Europa Conference League, Fiorentina went ahead 3 different times, got pegged back twice by Club Brugge. Ricardo Satil scored on 5 minutes, really good goal. Hans Vanaken equalised from the penalty spot on 17. Michael Oliver looking directly at the play. It just ignored a blatant handball and had to be called over by VAR to give the penalty. Andrea Belotti put Fiorentina back in front on 37 minutes. On 61 minutes, Rafael Onyedike was sent off for Bruges, reducing them to 10 men. But 2 minutes later, off what was a very hopeful punt down the field, Igor Thiago fashioned a goal and made it 2-2. But in the 91st minute, Mabala Nzola scored an absolute stunner. He'd just come off the bench. He had, well, not a stunner for Bruges is what I mean. Sorry. He'd just come off the bench, or he'd been off the bench. He should score the first, finally scores the second, and it was just a proper gut punch to Bruges because in those late stages, I genuinely thought if someone was going to win it, it was going to be them because the Fiorentina defense was just all over the place. No Milinkovic in the Fiorentina team. I'm not sure why. Martinez and Ranieri playing centre back, and both of them were just all over the place. And I quite like Lucas Martinez. I think he's a good player. Hasn't become the player he was expected to be when he broke through River Plate, but a good player. But the two of them at centre back last night just looked completely lost. Mandragora didn't start either, which I thought was an odd one. I do like Bonaventura, but there's no question that Mandragora should be in the team. Maybe Fiorentina were saving some of those players for the second leg. I really have no idea. But just a strange team selection. In the other semi-final then, I actually think Bruges were well placed to get through. So second leg there should be really interesting. Aston Villa 2, Olympiacos 4. Now, Villa had a goal disallowed early on. I have no idea why. I don't think it should have been disallowed. On 16 minutes, El Kabi times a run perfectly, but Matt Cash, what are you doing? What are you doing? And why is your stance that wide? Plays him onside. El Kabi does brilliantly. Great finish. 29 minutes is El Kabi again. Again, a really good finish. Ollie Watkins just before the break. Lovely bit of football by Aston Villa. I thought Villa in that first half had a perfectly good goal disallowed and were denied a Stonewall penalty. And I mean Stonewall. Bailey drives in, the defender sticks his leg out and then lifts his leg between Bailey's legs. It's a penalty. It's a penalty all day. 52 minutes, Moussa Diaby gets Villa back on terms. I'm not sure he was shooting. I think he skewed what was meant to be a cutback, but it went in. But 4 minutes later, Olympiacos get a penalty. And I don't buy this one at all. I think Douglas Luiz's arm is in a natural position because he's about to jump. So he lifts his arm to get momentum. The ball is so close to him when it's struck. I can't agree that that's a penalty. But El Kabi won't care. He steps up and scores. And then Santiago Hesse on 67 minutes has a long-range shot which takes a significant deflection off Ezri Konsa, wrong foots Robin Olsen, and flies into the net. Olympiacos weren't 2 goals better than Villa last night. They did play well. And if the game had ended in like a 3-3 draw, I would have said that was a fair result. But I don't think that the penalty was a penalty. I think Villa had a perfectly good goal ruled out, and they were denied a Stonewall penalty. And then they win a penalty. David Carmel fouls John Duran in the box. Now, again, I think this one was a bit soft, but it was given anyway. And up stepped Douglas Luiz in the 84th minute and clipped the outside of the post. I still think Villa can come through. I really do. But I think it's going to be very tough to go over there and beat them by 2 clear goals. They will have Emi Martinez back, which is big. They have to play Pau Torres and Diego Carlos in the next game. Konsa right back, whichever of the left backs, Carlos and Torres. Clement Lenglet is a liability. McGinn and Douglas Luiz doesn't really work. Eric Boonham should be starting. And I don't think the Bailey, Diaby, Rogers thing really works either. It's when you're counter-attacking and you've less of the ball, it can be really good. Because you've got pace, movement, power. But when you've got more of the ball and you need more creativity, it's not really getting the job done. Still think they have a chance. We'll wait and see. So there we are with last night's games. Right now, it looks like Atalanta, Leverkusen in the Europa League final, and I would say Olympiacos against Bruges in the Conference League final. Now, both of them will turn out to be wrong because that's just how it is. But I'll see you after this break and we can be wrong some more. Right, welcome back to part 2 of what will be a 4-part two-footed podcast today. We'll just jump in through some of the news. Phil Foden has been named Football Writers Player of the Year. Declan Rice second. Quite hilarious that the second best player at City was voted first. The second best player at Arsenal, maybe the third best player at Arsenal, was voted second. The best player at City was third. The best player at Arsenal was fourth. And Ollie Watkins was fifth. Rodri, Odegaard, and Ollie Watkins. But Brexit will Brexit, don't we know? What else do we have? Mark Clattenburg is leaving his role as referee analyst at Nottingham Forest. What the point of that role was is anybody's guess, but it hasn't really worked out for anybody. Maurizio Pochettino has come out and said that the stupid rumours around his future need to stop. I would agree. I think we're all bored of hearing about what Chelsea might or might not do. Marco Reus is to leave Borussia Dortmund at the end of the season when his contract expires. Brings to an end a 12-year run at the club. He has scored 168 goals in 424 appearances and was there as a kid, obviously, before joining Gladbach. So in total, 21 years. 21 years at Borussia Dortmund. It's a shame he hasn't won the major honours. He's won the German Cup twice. He's been a league runner-up a bunch of times. He's gotten to a Champions League final and lost to Bayern Munich back in 2013. This year, obviously, Dortmund are in the Champions League semi-finals. They have a 1-0 lead going into the second leg. Could this be the fairy tale ending to Marco Reus's time at Borussia Dortmund? Who knows? They're certainly not favourites to get out of the semi-final. And if they reach the final, they certainly won't be favourites. But I wouldn't put it past them to beat Bayern if it's Bayern in the final. If it's Real, I would never pick anybody to beat Real in a Champions League final. On to the gossip then, where the lead story tells us that Manchester United are front runners to sign Michael Olise. I'm not sure what that means. I see that as a term used by the media purely for clicks. It doesn't mean anything because who's telling you who the front runner is? Crystal Palace certainly aren't. Are Manchester United just telling journalists, well, we're the front runners for this player and the front runners for that player? Because that means nothing. I certainly don't think they'd be top of Michael Olise's list if he had his choice of clubs. So it seems like nonsense. United will be willing to listen to offers of more than 80 million for Marcus Rashford this summer. I would be willing to listen to offers of more than £4 million for my house. My house is not worth £4 million or anything close to it, you understand. But that's what I'd be willing to listen to. Juventus are leading the race to sign Mason Greenwood. That would be entirely unsurprising if Juventus were to sign him. Barcelona manager Xavi has told the club he wants Bernardo Silva this summer, but Bayern Munich are also interested. Again, it's weird that Bayern will be interested. Bayern have no clue who their manager is going to be next season, so what are they targeting players for? Like, where's the sense? Chelsea are considering a move for Wojciech Szczesny, who's mediocre at best. Chelsea have joined Newcastle in asking about the situation of former England youth international Tosin Derabayo. This is Fabrizio Romano. Who are they asking about the situation? The situation is he's out of contract, so make him an offer. This is Romano doing clickbait things based on Tosin's agent trying to drum up more interest and better offers and paying Romano to tweet such nonsense. Manchester City were one of the teams who scouted Ian Matson on Wednesday night. I'm not sure what TBR football is. Let's have a gander. Oh, it's tribal football. Garbage. Milo Clay. Who? Nonsense. Gabriel Jesus is prepared to fight for his place at Arsenal amid reports of a potential summer exit. I think Arsenal are going to have a tough time selling players this summer. I don't know who's going to make them an offer for Thomas Partey. I don't know who's going to pay big money for Aaron Ramsdale. Jesus doesn't want to leave. I mean, maybe Emile Smith-Rowe. What are you really getting for him? 25 million? Leicester are interested in signing Callum O'Hare. Roberto De Zerbi remains on Bayern Munich's shortlist. De Zerbi would be a lot of fun at Bayern. A lot of fun at Bayern. He could go Mazraoui right back, Kim right centre back. They would need a left centre back, a left-footed one. That would be a need for them straight away. Neuer, he'd love in goal. If Alphonso Davies stays, he's the perfect left back. Leroy Sané fits as a right winger for him. Coleman fits perfectly as a left winger. Musiala as the 10. Kane as the 9. Kimmich in the controlling role in midfield. So he'd need a defensive midfielder and a left-footed centre-back. And that would work really well for him. Celtic are among the teams keeping tabs on Aston Villa's 22-year-old Finnish goalkeeper Viljami Sinisalo, who spent the past season on loan at Exeter. Brighton, Fulham, West Ham and Benfica are all monitoring Vitória de Guimarães and Portugal winger Jota Silva, who has a 17 million release clause. Talented player. Had a weird career so far. Has played for a bunch of smaller clubs, but has really made a name for himself the last couple of years and recently been capped by his national team. Has had quite the breakout year this year with 15 goals in 39 games. He's only had 2 seasons playing at the highest level. Didn't play at the highest level until the age of almost 23. So, yeah, a late bloomer, but very talented. Interesting player. Aston Villa and Brazil centre-back Diego Carlos is one of AC Milan's top targets. I'd be willing to sell if I was them. Villa want to sign Kelechi Iheanacho as a backup to Ollie Watkins. Is he out of contract? If he is, that could make sense. Inter Miami have opened negotiations with Angel Di Maria. I mean, it absolutely makes sense. Get all of Messi's best mates there. Bayern Munich are interested in signing 16-year-old Arsenal striker Chido Obi Martin. He's meant to be very good. I've never seen him. West Ham technical director Tim Steedten has been barred from the first team dressing room as he hunts for a replacement for David Moyes. All is not well behind the scenes at West Ham. But there are reports that they're getting close with Lopetegui. That would be a decent appointment. We'll leave it there. Back after this break. See you soon. Right, welcome back. So as you heard before this podcast began, Today's episode is brought to you by Sky Bet, and with that in mind, we're going to take a look at some of the latest results from the Sky Bet fan forum, driving conversation. Who has been the best English player in the Premier League this season? Well, Phil Foden is absolutely the answer, and he's received 48% of the vote here. Cole Palmer's gotten 23, Rice 20, and Ollie Watkins 9. I think Bukayo Saka has been stiffed there, to be completely honest. I don't know how Bukayo Saka is not in the top 4. Whether it's Rice or Watkins, and I would say it's Rice that drops out because I would have Watkins higher than Rice in my player of the season. Bukayo Saka has been one of the 4 best English players in the league this year. Will Arne Slot be a good appointment for Liverpool? 65% say yes. I don't know, is the honest answer. I genuinely don't know. It's very, very hard to say. It's a huge risk. Which player is the most important to England this summer, Harry Kane or Jude Bellingham? 63% said Jude Bellingham. And being the contrarian that I am, I'm going to say it's neither. It's neither. Unfortunately for England, the most important player is going to be John Stones, because that defence is average at best. Walker's average. He's got great recovery pace, but that's on the wane. The left-back options, Chilwell and Shaw, have had disastrous seasons. Trippier's not had a good year. I don't think Trent's been anywhere close to his best this year. Reece James has missed most of the season. Southgate is too ignorant or too stupid or too in love with his current squad to actually play the best centre-back options, which would be Guehi and Tomori or Guehi and Colwill or Guehi and Branthwaite, perhaps. So I think John Stones, even though he's one of the most overrated centre-backs in history, he is easily the best centre-back who's going to play for England this summer. And he needs to be at the peak of his game, because England's defence needs to hold up. They'll have plenty of attacking power. The issue is at the other end. Who'll win the Champions League this year? Real Madrid 69%, Bayern Munich 17%, PSG 9%, and 5% Borussia Dortmund. It's hard to argue against Real Madrid. It really is. The thing is, I would have Bayern bottom purely because they're in the semi-final with Real, and I just think Real are going to win that second leg and go through, so I don't really give Bayern any chance of winning it. But then if Bayern get through, I think I'd fancy them against PSG, but I think Dortmund, they'd be favourites against Dortmund, and I'd probably pick them against Dortmund. I do think Dortmund could beat them. And finally, who's the biggest club in London? Well, the answer is Manchester United, if we're looking at the amount of people that live in the area, which club they support. But of these on the list, you've got Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, West Ham, and Crystal Palace, the disrespect of Brentford and Fulham. Palace got 1%. That's some delusion. I assume there was one Palace fan voting from 100 people. 4% said West Ham. 6% said Spurs, 15% said Chelsea, and 74% said Arsenal. And the answer is very clearly Arsenal. Like, it's actually not all that close. It is Arsenal. They're the biggest club in London, and that debate has never really been a real thing. Moving on then from the Sky Bet fan forum to the divisions that are sponsored by Sky Bet, but we'll start first with the National League, where on Sunday there is the playoff final between Bromley and Solihull Moors. That game is at Wembley. It's a 3 p.m. kickoff. If you fancy it, if you're not in the mood for any of the Premier League games, that one, if you live in London and you've got nothing better to be at, you'll probably be able to get a ticket for it pretty easily. So a good day out had by all. Bromley against Solihull. Bromley finished third in the league. Solihull finished fourth. Sorry, finished fifth. There wasn't a huge gap between them, only the 5 points. Solihull, they've done really well to get here. They demolished Barnet. Absolutely demolished Barnet. I think they're riding a high, but I'm going to pick Bromley. I'm going to pick Bromley to win that one. Moving on Monday in League Two, Sky Bet League Two gives us playoff semi-final first legs, 3 p.m. kickoff. Crawley Town, who finished 7th, at home to MK Dons, who finished 4th. 5:30 p.m. kickoff. Crewe, who finished 5th, home to 4th place Doncaster, who propelled themselves into the playoffs with an amazing late season run. Those two should be very, very good games on your bank holiday Monday. I highly recommend watching those. In League One, we've got a playoff game tonight. 7:30 kickoff. Save yourself from the horror of Luton versus Everton. Barnsley versus Bolton. That is 6th place Barnsley, who ended the season in terrible form, against 3rd place Bolton, who were right in the automatic playoff mix up until the last couple of games, where their form tailed off, but still proved very, very hard to beat. No defeats in those 5 games. Then tomorrow night, 7:45, it's Oxford, who finished 5th, home to Peterborough, who finished 4th. I would say a Bolton-Peterborough final is what I expect in League One. Bolton-Peterborough final is what I expect in League One. And without any disrespect to Peterborough, I do hope it's Bolton that come up, purely because of what that club has been through in recent years. I think for their fans, they deserve it. Peterborough have had good, stable ownership for the most part over the recent years. And I'm picking MK Dons Doncaster in a League Two playoff final, with MK Dons to come up, as much as I don't want them to. Now, on to the Sky Bet Championship, where it is the final game of the season, the final game week of the season. Stoke versus Bristol City, Sunderland versus Sheffield Wednesday, Swansea Millwall, Coventry QPR, Ipswich against Huddersfield, Leicester against Blackburn, Plymouth against Hull, Birmingham against Norwich, West Brom Preston, Middlesbrough Watford, Leeds Southampton, and Rotherham versus Cardiff. The games that matter, starting at the top, Ipswich versus Huddersfield. A point is all Ipswich need, and they will be promoted. If they lose, then Leeds Southampton becomes massive, because a Leeds win will see them jump Ipswich and go up on goal difference. Southampton are settled into 4th in their playoff team regardless, so it doesn't matter to them, but it does matter to Leeds. The other games that matter at the top end are West Brom versus Preston. A point will be enough for West Brom to secure a playoff spot, but they've lost their last 3. And if they lose this one, that opens it up for Hull to potentially jump them, or to jump them. That Hull game is important at both ends, because Plymouth currently sit 21st and are 1 point ahead of Birmingham. So they need a win. A win will keep them up. Birmingham play Norwich at home. Norwich have not been great away, but Birmingham have been dreadful. But Birmingham need to win in order to survive. Well, a draw... No, they need to win. Excuse me. They need... Unless Plymouth lose heavily, Birmingham need to win because Plymouth have a better goal difference. 4 goals better off. So unless Plymouth lose by 5, Birmingham need to win. Plymouth need to win if Birmingham win. And if both of them win, Sheffield Wednesday all of a sudden could be in trouble. But a point away to Sunderland will see them safe. A point away to Sunderland means that Birmingham cannot finish above them. So they're the games that matter. Sunderland, Sheffield Wednesday, Ipswich, Huddersfield, Plymouth, Hull, Birmingham, Norwich, West Brom, Preston, and Leeds against Southampton. They're the games that actually matter tomorrow on the final day. All of those games are 12:30 kickoffs. Very much looking forward to them. Think we're going to have a really good morning of Championship football. And to anybody planning to watch Arsenal Bournemouth, shame on you. Watch a Championship game. And there we have it. That is our EFL catch-up brought to you by Sky Bet. We'll be back after this break. Right, welcome back to our final part for the week. I'm joined by Guy Drinkle. How are you, sir?
Would you believe me, Dave, if I said it's jumper weather?
I would, because it's raincoat weather here. Not too bad in terms of, it's not cold, so you'd get away with a jumper. I wouldn't need the jacket, but you'd certainly need a raincoat here today. But Guy Drinkle, I have a question for you. Why, and swearing is necessary, why the fuck is our weekend being bookmarked with Luton versus Everton and then Crystal Palace, Manchester United? Who wants to watch these games?
I understand Luton Everton, but I don't know why you'd put it on a Friday night just to bore everyone to begin with. And obviously these would have been booked weeks ago. But Palace and United haven't had anything to play for since January. I don't understand. I know it's a fun fixture, but
this is, if I'm not mistaken, this is 4 Everton games in a row that have been on television. Everton Forest, I believe, was a televised 2 p.m. kickoff. I believe. Then there was Everton Liverpool, fair enough, Merseyside derby. Everton Brentford was on last Saturday in the late kickoff, and now they're playing Luton on a Friday night.
Wasn't Chelsea?
Nobody wants to watch Everton play. Even their own fans don't enjoy watching them.
Isn't it 5? They played Chelsea, didn't they?
They did play Chelsea. It's 5 games in a row. It's 5 games in a row. The last time they weren't on TV was because they were playing Burnley. What an absolute farce. Who on earth wants to watch Everton? We may as well start there. Everton Luton is the Friday night game. I've kind of blown the lead there. Last 10 games, Luton are 19th with 1 win and 2 draws. The Ev, to their credit, 4 wins and 2 draws. They're 10th in the form table. Away form, Everton are 18th with no wins and 2 draws. Home form, Luton are 19th with 1 win and 1 draw. This is just rancid. Everton, no Patterson, no Dele, no Michaelenko, Calvert-Lewin and Coleman facing late fitness tests. Luton, no Lockyer, no Kabore, no Nakamba, no Brown, no Bell, no Potts, no Ogbena, and no Anderson. Everton are in a bit of form at the moment, but they have been dreadful away. So I'm just going to say 1-1 and somebody gets sent off along the way.
Just to make it interesting.
Horror stuff. Putting that. People paying their hard-earned money to watch Premier League football and been served up Everton for 5 games in a row. Dreadful. I can only assume it's because the powers that be thought they were going to get relegated and were in part hoping that they might like set Goodison Park on fire in the rage between the boos. But, you know, they've turned things around, and they're on a pretty good run, to their credit. Like, you know, they're still awful, but they've won 4 out of 5.
Yeah. Yeah. Does that mean I'll watch it? No. Moving on to Saturday then. We have the first relevant game in the Premier League title race. I almost just left it at Premier League there. My bad. Arsenal hosting Bournemouth, Dave. I feel like, I don't know. You've mentioned it, and you've always favoured City, and obviously they're still in charge with the game in hand. Which got to the stage, what's Arsenal's max point? Is it now 89 points?
Yeah.
It's just the City era, but it always feels like 90 points is the minimum to enter the conversation. And I feel like that's almost doing Arsenal a disservice. I know you've always been a skeptic of their title credentials, but if they get to 89 points, there is obviously more they could have done, but it feels like getting to 89 and then not winning the title against this City side. It's not the one that got 100 points, not the one that went to war with Liverpool. I feel like they could be unlucky if they don't win the titles with 89 points.
Last 7 years, 93 points, 100 points, 98 points, 99 points, 86 points. That's the COVID year, 2021. 93 points and 89 points last year, but City led up at the end of the year, would have got 90 if they'd needed to.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, we don't live in an era where 89 points is generally going to be enough. And even if you go back and look at that 2021 season, where City end with 86, if you look at their run of games at the end of the season when they had the title wrapped up, because the next highest is Man United on 74, City had the foot off the gas from fairly early on. Like, City did not start that season well, and through 13 games, they were sitting in 9th place. But then they didn't lose a game. Sorry, they didn't drop a point from starting match week 14 all the way through till the middle of March. The title was won. They took the foot off the pedal. They lost at home to Leeds, at home to United, at home to Chelsea, away to Brighton. These are games they otherwise could have won very easily. The only reason it's been below 90 points in any of the last 7 seasons is because City haven't needed to go any higher because others had fallen away. That's just the era that we're in right now. It's 90 points minimum to win the Premier League. And Arsenal, like, I see people say, oh, it'll be so cruel. They've dropped points in 10 games. They've lost 5. Like, let's not pretend they've been flawless.
They don't know cruelty. We know cruelty.
They know no cruelty, guys. They know no cruelty. Look at the injuries that both sides of that both of the, like, take us out of the equation for a second and look at the injuries that both sides have had. Like, Haaland missed 6 weeks with a broken foot.
Yeah,
he missed half the season. Like, John Stones has only played 15 games in the Premier League. Nathan Ake has missed 8 games, 9 games.
I mean, even like Grealish, I know you're not a fan.
Grealish has missed a ton of games. Rodri was suspended for a bunch of games. That's his own fault. You've had Ederson's missed 7 games now, or 6 games now. Like, they've had serious injuries this season, which is unusual for City. Normally, we don't see City suffer too badly from injuries, but this year they have. But then you look at Arsenal. So David Raya has played 29 games. The games he's missed were the 2 lone games against Brentford, the game just after he signed, sorry, the 2 games against Brentford, who he's on loan from, the game just after he signed, and the 3 games before he signed, he's been available all year for them. In defence, Ben White, 34 games. Gabriel, 33 games. William Saliba, 35 games. The only one of the defence who's missed real time is Zinchenko. Now, they'll say Tomiyasu, he's a squad player. They'll say Jurrien Timber. Who was he bought to replace? Like last season, they couldn't move for telling us that White and Zinchenko were the 2 best fullbacks in the league. So who was Timber bought to replace, or was he just brought in as a squad player? Because my feeling is he was brought in as a squad player. In midfield, Martin Odegaard, 32 starts. He's been on the bench, I think, twice and not played. He missed 1 game. I think it was Sheffield United. Declan Rice, 35 games. Now, the third midfield spot has been up in the air. Kai Havertz was bought for that role. He's played 34 games, but he has obviously played up front in a bunch of games. Mm-hmm. But still, of their first choice midfield and what it was planned to be, they've all been there all season. And then in attack, Martinelli has played 32 games. Bukayo Saka has played 33 games. I think one of the games he didn't play, he was on the bench for. Gabriel Jesus is the only one that has missed significant time. So you've got 2 players, Jesus and Zinchenko, both in positions where you've got other good options. They've had incredible fortune with injuries this year. They'll whinge and moan about Thomas Partey. Declan Rice was signed to replace him. And then they spent months telling us Declan Rice was the best defensive midfielder in the world. So how are you missing Thomas Partey? You know, like they've had incredible fortune with injuries, with refereeing decisions, Spurs game, Liverpool away, United at home. They've been blessed this season. Everything has gone the way they would have hoped it to go. And if they fall short, there's only themselves to blame. Because City haven't been vintage City this year. Liverpool are in rebuilding mode. Spurs are in rebuilding mode. United are a dumpster fire. Chelsea are a train wreck that went off a mountain, wiped out an entire town, and then caught fire. Like, this is the season for Arsenal if they're going to win the title. Because City are going to reload next summer, or this summer. I wouldn't be surprised if Guimaraes and Paqueta end up there. Liverpool are changing manager, so it's going to be weird. But they're going to improve their team for next season. Chelsea will get better. Spurs will get better. I don't know about United. I don't feel like they'll be much better next season if they keep Ten Hag. But this was the season for Arsenal where everything's gone right for them. Now, I think they'll win this game against Bournemouth. We come into it, they're second in the form table, Arsenal. But Bournemouth are third in the form table, which is remarkable over a 10-game run. Arsenal are top of the home form table. Bournemouth are ninth in the away form table. The only Arsenal injury is Jurrien Timber, who's, working his way back. He's playing some under-21 games at the moment. Bournemouth have a bunch of injuries. Fredericks is now the here and there, but Tavernier, Adams, Sinistera, Kirkez, they would all be starters. Zabarni's back. Metham's out. Semenyo would be a starter. He's out. Mm-hmm. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's say 4 starters. One of Sinistera and Tavernier, Adams, Kirkez, and Semenyo. Like, they've got a lot of injuries. Chris Metham's also out. Roman Favre's back, though, so he might get a game. But it's everything, again, is going in Arsenal's favour. Like, they're playing a Bournemouth team in really good form, but missing 4 starters. So, again, that's gone in their favour. Again, as well, they're getting the early kickoff before City play. Now that flips next weekend, and we'll see how they react there. But this is all gone in their favor. They've had every single thing work out for them this year. If they don't get it done, they've no one to blame, only themselves. I'll say 3-1 Arsenal in this game.
Yeah. Just a quick word on Areola. I know you probably don't want to be talking about it, but record points totals for Bournemouth. You mentioned the injury problems, and they were probably the, off the top of my head, most affected team by AFCON.
They lost a bunch of players to AFCON. I think he has done a sensational job, like an absolutely sensational job. If we look back on their tenure in the Premier League, 15-16 is the first year they get 42 points and finish 16th. The following year, then 46 points, finish 9th. Then they get 44 and finish 12th. 18-19 is 45 and 14th. 19-20, they get 34 points, they get relegated. They're not in the league then in 2021 or 21-22. Last season, they come up under Scotty Two Coats. He gets booted after a hammering at Anfield, and then more pertinently, what he said afterwards. Gary O'Neill worked a miracle, and he did a great job, kept them up, 15th place, 39 points. But for Areola to be sitting here with 3 games left in 10th with 48 points, knowing that while Brighton are behind them with a game in hand, that even winning that game in hand doesn't push them ahead of Bournemouth, that's absolutely tremendous.
And Brighton look finished.
Brighton are done for the year. They just want to finish up and go home. Like, they could finish above West Ham. They could finish above Chelsea. They're only 3 points behind. Chelsea have played a game less, but Chelsea are mental. You don't know what you're going to get from them game to game. But like, they're going to almost certainly pass the 50-point barrier this year. It's not an easy run. They've got Arsenal this weekend, Brentford home next weekend. You'd expect them to win. And then Chelsea away final day. You just don't know which Chelsea it'll be. But again, you wouldn't be surprised if Bournemouth won that. So imagine if they did finish 9th or 10th with 54 points. Like, that's an amazing achievement. He's done a phenomenal job. He'll be in my top 3 for manager of the season. I think right now I'd probably have him number 2 behind Unai Emery. And that might be how it ends with those two 1-2. But for all those talking heads that rushed to slam Bournemouth when they moved on from Gary O'Neill, that then rushed again to demand that Iraola get sacked and talk about what a stupid decision it was because they had the slow start to the season, those people all right now should feel a great amount of shame because they made fools of themselves. And what's incredible to think of is, what if Bournemouth had started the season well? Like, first 9 games, they took 3 points.
Even if they just did quite badly rather than awfully.
Yeah. Let's say they took 7 points rather than 3. We'd currently be sitting in a world where Bournemouth Football Club were 8th in the league, a point behind Newcastle, and 2 points behind Manchester United, with a potential chance of European football for next year. That's just 7 points. That's just 4 points more. Like, and I know for a fact if some of those games got played now, the results would end quite differently.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, they drew at home at West Ham. They lost away to Liverpool, lost away to Spurs. Those might be the same. They drew away to Brentford. I think they'd beat them now. They drew home to Chelsea. I think they'd beat them now. They lost away to Brighton. They definitely beat them if they played them right now. Lost at home heavily to Arsenal. Lost away to Everton. I bet that works out different. and they lost at home to Wolves. And again, I think that would work out different. But they beat Burnley, then they got hammered by City, and then they had a good run, winning 6 out of 7. Then they had a wobble in mid-season. They lost 4 of 7, drew the other 3. Then they bounced back and won 4 of 5. They lose 2 out of 3 with a draw against United. But now they've won back-to-back games again. So, they've proven themselves this year to be a far better team than they were last year, a far more sustainable team than they were last year. The big question this summer is, can they keep Solanke? And if the answer is no, they're going to have to find a really good replacement, because Semenyo and Kluivert have done well in terms of goals, but Solanke has really carried the load there. And without him, they might struggle. But Iraola has done an absolutely incredible job. And all credit to him and to the club for both hiring him and then not even flinching when it started as badly as it did.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's zip through some of these games, because most of them have zero meaning left, to be fair. Brentford-Fulham, quick fire?
Yeah, there's no real point in digging into this one at all. This is just two teams that are going to be in the division next season. Brentford are safe. Fulham are, comfortable. Brentford have some injuries: De Silva, Henry, Hickey, and me. Fulham, just Harrison Reed, but he should be okay to play. This is one of those games where I think a draw suits both clubs. Will go 2-2.
Yep, sounds about right to me. One that actually does have meaning left: Newcastle fighting for Europe and Burnley trying to pull off a miracle. I mean, Forest are playing Sheffield United, but Forest, everything's going against them one way or the other, seemingly. Burnley could be out the relegation zone, depending on the Luton result on Friday at the end of this game.
Yeah, they really
wild.
could. And they've managed to just claw back points over the last 10 games. Only 2 wins, but 5 draws and only 3 defeats. They've been respectable defensively. They could do with scoring more goals, but that's the same problem most clubs have. They're 14th in the form table. Toon are 6th. But Burnley's home form is poor, only 1 win in their last 6. Toon's away form, they've won 3 of their last 6. Injury-wise, no Ramsey, no Bayer, no Redmond, no Aldakiel, and no Coley. Well, Koleoshu may be back, but I think it's probably a week too early. Toon decimated. No Botman, no Lascelles, no Tonali, no Willock, no Cher, no Miley. Unlikely to have Trippier, unlikely to have Joelinton, unlikely to have Pope, unlikely to have Almiron. But the positive is all of them are getting closer to returning. And Matt Targett also out. I'm going to go for a draw on this one. I'll go 1-1. I think Burnley will get something from this game. So I'm going to go 1-1.
Probably the result neither team wants, to be fair.
Yeah, but both teams need a win, because Toon are still pushing for Europe, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. On to Sheffield United hosting Forest then. The main question is, will Forest win this game? Because we know they bloody can, because Sheffield United's defensive record is bad. But, everything going against them, one way or the other. It was City last week, so that was always going to happen. But they are in a very strange place as a football club. They lost their refereeing expert today with him quitting, which is such a nonsense role. But, it feels like if they don't win this game, they might be down. I don't know what the other fixtures are, but you have to beat Sheffield United if you're staying in this league.
You have to beat them. They've got Chelsea next weekend, and they finish the season away to Burnley, which I'm really hoping we get to that game and it matters. Like where Forest have to get a point at least to stay in the division. I want that game to have real meaning on the final day, which is why I'm hoping Burnley can at least get a point. Although I do think Forest are going to win this game. I really do. And Burnley's in-between game is Tottenham. So, do you know what? I'm going to change my pick. I'm going to say 2-1 Burnley because I want the drama on the final day. I'm going to say 2-1 Burnley. I think Forest are going to win this game 3-1. Now, they're in terrible form. Last 10 games, they've won 1 and drawn 3. They're 18th. Sheffield United are 20th. Home form, Sheffield United are 20th. Away form, Forest are 17th. Neither of them have won in their last 6. Home for Sheffield United, away for Forest. But I'm going to go 3-1 Forest because I want Sheffield United getting to that 100-goal conceded mark. No Max Lowe, no Norrington Davies, no McBurney, no Basham, no Egan, no Jevison, no Baldock, no Davies, no Brewster, but James McAtee is okay. For Forest, Awani might be back, which would be huge. Nicholas Dominguez might be back, which would be big.
I forgot he was there.
Yeah. No Nico Williams. He's the only player ruled out this weekend. Willie Bully is back. So Forest at least have gotten their players fit. I'm going to go 3-1. That will leave Forest on 29, Burnley on 27, and Luton on 26. And like I said, Burnley play Spurs. That's a defeat, I think. Forest play Chelsea. I think they'll probably lose that one. Luton's second to last game is West Ham away, and I think they lose that one. So we would go into the final day with basically winner take all between Burnley and Forest. A draw would do Forest, but if Burnley were to win, they would stay up. Luton would need
a miracle.
Luton would be, Luton would be gone. Luton would be gone if that all works out, and their Fulham game would be irrelevant. 3-1 Forest.
Yeah, at least give us something to watch in the final day, because I don't think much else is going to that race. To that time, I should say. Maybe the title, but we don't want to suffer through that. We have City hosting Wolves. I mean, Wolves have pulled up some results against City in the past, but that was all Adama Traore. We know this. I mean, it's just annoying that even from a neutral, which we are at this bloody point, it's just a shame Wolves' attacking line's kind of buggered with injuries because Neto's the type of player I think could hurt City, but he is just made of Weetabix.
Yeah, now he's apparently getting very close to a return. I think him, Bellegarde, and Santiago Bueno might all make the bench. Ait Nouri's back fit, but
lovely.
Craig Dawson's out, Chouani's out, and Noel Lamina are out.
Ooh, who's going to play centre back?
That's the question. Now, Tony Gomes has been pretty good.
In a back three, though.
Yeah, they've been okay. They've been okay, but I still think City will beat them. I think everybody from City is fit. The only doubt they have, I believe, is Ederson. Now, he obviously went off last weekend with a shoulder knock, but the most recent reports are that he's going to be okay. They might still just play.
Ortega's fine.
Ortega, yeah, because this isn't a game really where they should face too many shots. And Ortega's a decent goalkeeper, to be fair. Form table, last 10, City are top, 8 wins, 2 draws. Wolves are 15th, 3 wins, 2 draws. Home form, City are 3rd, 4 wins, 2 draws. Away form, Wolves are 8th, 2 wins, 2 draws. I'm just going to back City to win. I'm going to pick City to win each of the remaining 4 games and end the season on 91 points. So I'll go 3-0. 3-1. 3-1.
Yeah, boringly so. Moving on to Sunday then. I mean, this would have been interesting a couple of weeks ago when Brighton hadn't given up on life, seemingly. And Villa, I mean, I think we mentioned it last week, maybe 1 foot in the Champions League spot. It's probably a few more limbs now. I know Tottenham have the game in hand, but we know they have, I'll say Liverpool with an asterisk to play and Man City to play. Mm, a couple toes and an extra half a body in the Champions League for Villa now?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're much of the way there. 7 points is it's 7 points clear. Villa do have the game in hand. Spurs have the game in hand, but like you said, they play Liverpool away. They play City. They do have Burnley and Sheffield United, which are winnable games. But let's say they take 7 points. Even let's say they take 9 points. They're not winning all four remaining games. I don't think anyone thinks Spurs are going to win all four, which means that realistically, Villa only need to win one of their last three, and they get Liverpool at home next weekend. That's an easy win for them. And then they go to Palace, and if they need to go there and win, they're more than good enough to go there and win. I do think they might rest and rotate for this game, though. No Kamara, no Buendia, no Mings, no Ramsey. Martinez is back. Tielemans isn't fully fit yet, so they'll hold him out. I think they'll hold Moreno out. I'd be surprised if we don't see a couple of less familiar faces start in this game. Like, I could see them resting Bailey or Diaby, or even both. I could see them resting maybe McGinn or Douglas Luiz and bringing in Eric Boonham. I could definitely see Langley playing at centre-back. I think they'll rest players because I think they've now got to go full bore away at Olympiacos because they're 2 goals behind. In the form table, Villa's away form is third in the league. It's pretty good. 4 wins, a draw, and a defeat. Overall, last 10, they are 5th. Brighton are 17th over the last 10. 2 wins, 3 draws, 5 defeats, but they've lost 4 of their last 6 and haven't won in their last 6. At home, Brighton are 14th in the form table, 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 defeats. Injury-wise, Brighton, a lot of injuries as well. No Solly March, no Evan Ferguson, no Hinchelwood, no Estupinan, no Matoma, who's now been ruled out for the season. Lamptey, Milner, both a few weeks away. Van Hecke and Adam Crisps Lallana, both out as well. But I'm actually going to back Brighton to win for no other reason than I think Villa have to keep their eye on Thursday night. Now, if Villa decide, look, we'll go full strength here, we'll get top 4 locked up, and whatever happens then in Greece, so be it. I could fully understand that as well. I do think when you're in the semi-final of a competition, you really should go and try and win the thing. I'll go 2-1 to Brighton, just because.
Bit of joy.
Yeah.
Moving on then, that was at 2:00, I should have mentioned. This one's also at 2:00. Chelsea hosting West Ham. I remember these games usually having a bit of spice behind them. Not too much to play for. I know Chelsea can still, well, both can technically still get European football. Feels like West Ham, I know they'd like having the Europa, whatever conference or whatever it'd be in, but it feels like with the reset coming probably in the summer with the new manager, maybe having a year off from Europe would probably be a nice thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think they'd be much better off not getting Europe ahead of next year and just be able to focus solely on the league. Last 10, Chelsea are 7th. 4 wins, 5 draws, only the 1 defeat. West Ham 10th, 3 wins, 4 draws, 3 defeats. Home form, Chelsea are 5th. 4 wins, a draw, and a defeat. Away form, West Ham 13th, 2 wins, 4 defeats. So not ideal there. West Ham injuries. George Earthy's still out with the head injury. Mavropanos and Agard are out. Chelsea, though, it just gets funnier every week. No Fofana, no Lavia, no Enzo, no Ogachukwu. They're the top 3, Fofana, Lavia, Enzo, done for the year. Ogachukwu, Reece James, Malo Gusto, Chukwuemeka, Thiago Silva, Axel Disasi, and Robert Sanchez all ruled out, but expected back before the end of the season. Nkunku, Sterling, and Colwell also out, but expected back next week.
How mad would you have to be to play Reece James in one of these pointless games?
Oh, 100%. The only thing is, he might want to play a game or two with England in the Euros on the horizon, maybe.
I know Southgate has favourites, but he has 70 right backs to pick from.
That's the thing. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. I wouldn't be playing Reece James again, and as I said before, I'd be looking to sell him this summer if it was me. These games do often have a bit of needle to them. I think this will be a fun game. I'm going to go 2-2. I'm going to give West Ham the draw there. I think Kudus, Paqueta, and Bowen will cause that Chelsea backline trouble because of all the injuries. I think they'll cause them trouble. So I'll go 2-2. And Cole Palmer obviously scoring both Chelsea goals.
Yes, obviously. I mentioned it with West Ham. Do you think football reasons, not monetary, because we know if they go into Europa, there's different FFP considerations, but boring. Europa for them? I mean, we know the underlying numbers and stuff are quite good for Chelsea. Like, it seems like Champions League or bust for that type of side.
It does. And, the issue is, no matter who you are, Europa League has a negative impact on your league form. It's different with the Conference League because you're largely playing dross. If you look at Villa's run to where they are, Lille are the best team they've played. Lille would be 8th or 9th at best in the Premier League, probably a little bit lower than that.
Probably lower, yeah.
Whereas the Europa League, there is a lot stronger opposition. And then obviously you get the Champions League clubs that drop in afterwards. So it does have a negative impact on what you do. So I think for Chelsea, if they did get Europa League, now Conference League, I think they could get it, win it, and potentially get top 4 next year if things broke right and they avoided all the injuries. But Europa League, I think if they got that, they'd be looking at kind of 6th at best. I still think they're looking at kind of 5th at best next year anyway, because I think you'll be looking at Arsenal, Liverpool, City, and Spurs, I think, next year, because I think Villa with Europa League or with Champions League might just drop back, kind of how Newcastle did.
Although Spurs with 2 games a week, it's going to be a bit messy unless they have big investment, I think.
I think Spurs will have investment this summer. I do.
They need it.
I think they're primed to do some stuff this summer. Yeah, I think Chelsea are better off skipping Europe again next year, even though it will hurt them on FFP for sure.
Yeah, but you get pennies on the dollar, don't you? Type stuff.
It's really just the match receipts that are worthwhile.
Yeah,
the TV revenue is crap.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on to the last game on Sunday, it's Liverpool hosting Spurs. It just feels like 2 teams kind of wanting the season to end at this stage.
Yeah, I think 2 teams that have certainly improved from last year. Both of them, significant improvements from last year.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of them anywhere close to the finished product. Both of them sort of year 1 of rebuild. Now, Liverpool obviously taking a different path this summer and almost resetting to year 1 of rebuild under a new manager. But Spurs, I think, should have good continuity next year. But Spurs are 13th in the form table, 4 wins, a draw, and a defeat. Liverpool are 4th, 5 wins, 3 draws, 2 defeats. Even though it feels like their form has been appalling for a while, it's only really the last 5 games.
It's all relative because we mentioned we have to get above 90 points to succeed where we were. So
exactly, that's the thing. Home form, Liverpool are 6th, 4 wins, a draw, and a defeat. That defeat, of course, being to Crystal Palace. Away form, Tottenham are 15th. They've won 1 of their last 6 away from home. Injury-wise, Liverpool are in pretty good shape. Bradley's back. Van Dijk is a doubt, which is a blow, and obviously Jota is out. Matip and Alcantara, we've all written off anyway. Spurs, no Adoiji, no Forster, no Sessegnon, no Werner, no Solomon, and no Davies. So likely we're getting the Emerson Royale left back bonanza like we had last night. I'm going to pick Liverpool to win. I'll go 3-2.
Pressure off now. We could do football.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's like, it's all over now. So now you might as well just go out and go all out and try and win the games, just to have a bit of fun.
Just score an open play goal. It'd be nice.
Yeah.
that isn't
Try
terrible.
and score the first goal as well. And then after you've scored the first goal, try and get the second goal. And if you do that, more often than not, you will win the game. So then when Spurs score the third, you can get the fourth. And then when they get the fifth, it won't actually matter. But yeah, 3-2 to Liverpool for a bit of fun.
Why not? Moving on to Monday then, game we mentioned in the intro, but Palace hosting United for some reason. I mean, I think it'll be a fun game. Both teams have vulnerability and United have spawn, so they'll do goals somehow. Yeah, I think it'll be fun. I don't know why it's on TV, especially in its own Monday night football slot.
Well, Gary Neville needs to have something to make his life better, because Salford have let him down this season as well. Right, form table. Last 10 games. Crystal Palace, 8th. 4 wins, 3 draws, 3 defeats. 3 wins and a draw in their last 4. Manchester United, 11th. 1 win in their last 6. 3 wins and 4 draws out of their last 10. Home form, Palace 11th, 3 wins, a draw, 2 defeats. Away form, United 7th, 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 defeats. Injury-wise, United, no Malacia, no Martinez, no Varane, no Shaw. Rashford's a doubt. Martial is most likely out. Lindelof is out. Johnny Evans is a doubt, but could be okay. Scott McTominay is a doubt, but could be okay. Bruno Fernandes is a doubt, but could be okay. And Willy Kambwala is out. So I have no idea who's playing in defence for them. Probably Casemiro again. For Crystal Palace, no Johnston, no Doucouré, no Lerma. Eze's okay to go. Guehi should be back. Rob Holding is out. Matthias Franke is out. I do think it'll actually be a decent game, primarily because Palace are playing some lovely football at the moment. They beat Newcastle in their last home game. They hammered West Ham in the home game before that. They beat Liverpool away. They drew away at Fulham. They're in a pretty good moment. Like they did lose at home to City, but they gave City some big scares in that game. I'm going to back Crystal Palace to win this game by 3-2 and send Manchester United into their last 3 games with a goal difference of 0. And it's a very tough last 3 games. Arsenal home, Toon home, and Brighton away, which at this point should be easier. But I'm going to back Palace to win 3-2.
And that is the last game of our very spread out weekend.
And that is the last game of a very spread out bank holiday weekend. Was just discussing on the Daily Red today, Guy, how Ireland is superior to England because we have more bank holidays. So that's great.
Doesn't matter to me anyway.
No, it doesn't. But I will not be around on Monday, largely because I've been told I'm not working on Monday. So we will leave it there. That is a wrap for today's show. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I did recording. Before we part ways, let's take a moment to acknowledge the support of Sky Bet, the champion of the fans. For over a decade, Sky Bet has not only sponsored the EFL, but has also shown a deep commitment to enhancing the fan experience through betting and beyond. It's clear that Sky Bet stands for the fans, ensuring our love of the game is always celebrated. And as we close, Please do remember, if you're engaging with betting, it's important to do so responsibly. Sky Bet would like to remind you that this is for those who are 18 plus. Please visit begambleaware.org to get more information on responsible gambling. With Sky Bet, it's all about the fans. So until next time, keep that passion alive. Bye-bye.
Sports Social Podcast Network.